Incredible journey. Black waitress saves billionaire's daughter. Doctor reveals she was poisoned. The diner was alive with the sounds of sizzling bacon, laughter, and the clinking of silverware. Grace, a 28-year-old black waitress, moved through the crowded tables with an effortless grace, her warm smile brightening the day of each customer she served. She poured coffee and handed out plates of fluffy pancakes, all while juggling the demands of 2 jobs and caring for her ailing mother at home. As she refilled a regular cup, the familiar faces gave her a sense of community that fueled her resilience. Every small victory a compliment, a shared moment felt like a treasure amid the chaos of her life. But just as the afternoon buzz reached a crescendo, chaos struck. Lily, the daughter of a prominent entrepreneur, suddenly collapsed in her corner booth. The laughter transformed into gasps, hearts raced, and a wave of panic washed over the room. Grace's instincts kicked in. She dashed across the diner, her heart pounding in her chest. "Call 911," she shouted as she knelt beside Lily. Her hands shook as she checked for a pulse, recalling the first aid skills her mother had drilled into her all those years. She focused on Lily's faint breath. The diner held its collective breath. The smell of pancakes faded, replaced by a sharp tension in the air. Whispers swirled among the patrons. Was it poison? Oh, the implications. Grace could feel the weight of their gazes, staring and judging as she worked to revive this privileged girl. Sweat beaded on her forehead as sirens wailed closer, a lifeline for both of them. Once the ambulance arrived, Grace's hands remained steady despite the chaos surrounding her. With every second ticking by, she became a beacon of hope. Seeing Lily being lifted onto a stretcher, a wave of relief washed over her. But that relief quickly turned to worry. What had happened? And why was everyone staring at her? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days passed, and news of the incident spread through Maplewood like wildfire. Grace could feel the divide in her community intensifying. While the well-to-do forged alliances, protecting their own interests, the workers at the diner sensed something darker brewing beneath the surface. Grace and Lily began to cultivate an unexpected friendship while navigating the aftermath of the incident. It turned out that Lily, too, carried dreams and fears, parallels that stitched their worlds together despite the battlements of privilege. But the town began to stir with rumors and tension. As Grace delved deeper into the investigation, her commitment to justice ignited a fire within her. Alongside Lily, they faced not just the task of uncovering the truth, but the weight of their social identities. Would their bond survive the scrutiny? As they braced for what was to come, whispers of conspiracy echoed. The stakes were higher than either had anticipated, leading Grace to a crossroads where loyalty, dignity, and sacrifice clashed. Would her courage forge a new path for their community, or would it unravel the very fabric that kept them together? The pressing intensity of the moment echoed in the air, setting the stage for the choices that could change everything. Grace sat in her small living room, the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders. The neon sign from the diner flickered in the darkness, a constant reminder of the chaos that had upended her life. She replayed that fateful afternoon again and again in her mind, each moment a vivid frame in her memory. Lily had survived, but the question lingered: why was she poisoned? Grace could feel the tension saturating Maplewood. As whispers spread like wildfire, the townsfolk became divided. People either viewed her as a heroine or a suspect. To some, she was the brave waitress who saved the billionaire's daughter. To others, she was the only black face in a sea of privilege. It was maddening. Grace, her mother, Evelyn, called from the back room. The old woman's voice broke her thoughts, yanking her back to reality. "Is everything okay?" "Yeah, Mom. Just thinking," she replied, forcing a bright smile. Days turned into a blur as she juggled her shifts at the diner and the caring duties at home. Yet, a fire had ignited within her, an urgency to clear her name and protect both Lily and herself from the whispered accusations. The idea of being framed for something she didn't do consumed her thoughts. One evening, Lily texted her, "Can we meet? I found something." Her heart raced at the prospect. What had she discovered? Did it pertain to the poison? They agreed to meet at a local park. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows on the ground, as Grace arrived. She spotted Lily sitting on a bench, her expression a mix of excitement and fear. When their eyes met, Grace felt a surge of determination. "Grace, I know this is all so overwhelming," Lily began, giving her a nervous laugh. "But I think I might know who did this to me." "What? Who?" Grace asked, feeling a chill race down her spine. "It's someone close to my dad. Someone who didn't want me around anymore. They wanted to scare him, to keep his attention on their ambitions instead of on me," Lily explained, her voice trembling slightly. Panic rose in Grace's chest. "They poisoned you to send a message?" Lily nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I overheard them. I was meant to be watching my dad's back, but instead, I became a target." "Have you told anyone?" Grace's heart raced. Lily shook her head. "It's too dangerous. If we go to the police, they might think I'm lying, or worse, they might come after both of us. But we can't just sit here," Grace exclaimed, pacing, her mind spinning. "We have to do something. Together." Lily placed a hand on her arm, grounding her momentarily. "I trust you, Grace. We need evidence." Suddenly, they were interrupted by a loud commotion nearby. A group of men, recognizable as affluent patrons from the diner, were arguing amidst cheers from others. Grabbing Grace's arm, Lily pulled her down. "We have to hide. Fast." As they crouched behind a large oak tree, Grace's heart thundered in her chest. Who were these men? What dirty secrets were they hiding? Whispers floated in the air, reaching them just enough for their ears to pick up snippets. "Too much at stake. She'll ruin our plans." Grace's breath hitched. There it was, the connection they needed. She glanced at Lily, feeling a shared surge of adrenaline. Whatever was happening, they were right in the thick of it. But were they prepared for the danger that lay ahead? Just as the shouting reached a fever pitch, one of the men pointed toward their hiding spot. "There. I saw them." In that moment, fear gripped Grace tightly. It was now or never. What would they do? Would they run or stand their ground? The consequences of their next move could change everything. The shout echoed through the park as panic surged in Grace. "What do we do?" she whispered, her voice thin and fragile. Lily's eyes flicked toward the thick underbrush just beyond the oak tree. "Run," she urged, her grip tightening around Grace's arm. With no time to think, they bolted from their hiding place. The cool evening air rushed against Grace's face, a stark reminder that the night held danger. They dashed toward the park's exit, hearts pounding wildly. Behind them, the men shouted, "Don't let them get away." Grace's breath hitched as they sprinted through the fading light. Every glance back sent chills down her spine. Were they being followed? As they reached the edge of the park, Grace pulled Lily aside. "We need a plan, and we need to be smart about this." Lily nodded, her face pale under the streetlights. "There's a cafe a few blocks away. We can regroup there." They took off again, choosing the deserted streets lined with flickering porch lights and shadows. Grace fought to steady her breath, her mind racing. Who were those men? What were they hiding? The whispers they overheard loomed large in her thoughts, like dark clouds gathering for a storm. When they finally reached the cafe, they slipped inside and found a secluded booth. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, a stark contrast to the turmoil outside. "We can't stay here too long," Grace said, glancing at the door. "They might come looking for us." Lily looked around, her eyes wide. "I can't believe this is happening. We're not safe, are we?" Grace leaned in closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "We will be, if we find out what they're really up to. We need a way to expose them. What if we captured their conversation on video?" Lily suggested, her mind working fast. "Then we could show the police we're not lying. It's risky, but it might work." Grace nodded, a spark igniting in her chest. "We need to find out when and where they'll meet again before they could strategize further." A familiar voice cut through their anxious chatter. It was Charlie, a fellow waiter from the diner. "Grace. Lily, what are you doing here?" "Charlie, it's not safe," Grace replied urgently. "We're in trouble." He glanced around, concern painted across his face. "What happened?" "I heard the commotion at the park. Lily was poisoned, and now we think it was those men from the diner." Grace's heart raced, revealing their truth. They're tied to someone important, and we overheard them plotting something dangerous. Charlie's eyes widened. You can't be serious. Is this about the high-stakes deal that everyone has been talking about? Yes. Lily chimed in. We need proof. If we can expose them, we can clear Grace's name and keep her safe. Charlie hesitated, swallowing hard. Count me in. But we have to be careful. Someone is already watching you, and they may be onto us. They pored over their plan, voices hushed and hurried, each detail crucial. Time was running out, and the weight of the world pressed on them. The stakes felt higher than ever as they strategized. Grace felt a surge of determination. They would fight for the truth, no matter the danger. They had each other, and together, they were stronger. But just as they prepared to leave the cafe, the bell above the door jingled. All heads turned toward the entrance, and Grace's heart sank. The last person she wanted to see stood there, one of the wealthy diners, a menacing smirk on his face. Found you, he said, casually glancing around the room. Looks like you're not as clever as you thought. Fear shot through Grace as she exchanged terrified looks with Lily and Charlie. What would happen next? The air crackled with tension. The chase had just begun. Grace's heart raced, pounding against her chest like a relentless war drum. The smirk on the wealthy man's face chilled her to the bone. He moved closer, his confidence oozing as he took in the cafe's sparse crowd. A few coffee drinkers glanced up, their expressions curious, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in the corner. "Isn't this quaint?" he said, his voice dripping with mockery. "Hiding in plain sight, girls. You must think you're clever. But do you really think you can escape this?" "Back off," Charlie warned, stepping protectively in front of Grace and Lily. The man chuckled, dismissively, waving a hand. "Oh, please. You think your little plan is a secret? News travels fast in our circles. You're out of your depth." Grace felt a fire kindle in her stomach. They couldn't let him intimidate them. "We know things," she declared, her voice steady despite the quaking in her knees. "We overheard your conversation." His brow arched, intrigued. "Care to share? Care to go to jail?" Lily shot back, her words sharp and fierce. The audacity stunned Grace, igniting admiration. The man straightened, and in that moment, he appeared less menacing and more desperate. "Listen, you have no idea what you're getting into. You're meddling with something far bigger than you can imagine." Grace's mind whirled. What could possibly be so important? "We'll find out anyway," she asserted, a reckless hope overcoming fear. "And if you want to silence us, you'll have to work harder than that." That fierce spark of courage held her steady, defying his presence. But then, the man's expression shifted from amusement to cold calculation. "You're quite brave. Too brave, maybe," he said. "Just know, the more you dig, the more you put yourself in danger. There are consequences." With a final glare, he turned on his heel, leaving the cafe. The door jingled behind him, and the moment he left, weight fell on Grace's shoulders. "Do you think he's gone?" Lily whispered, her eyes darting to the door. "He better be," Charlie murmured, glancing at Grace. "We can't let him scare us off. We have to move." As they slipped out of the cafe, Grace felt the heaviness in the air again, a fog of uncertainty wrapped around them. She was acutely aware of every sound. The distant honk of a car, soft laughter from a nearby bar, even the rustle of a nearby tree. Everything felt amplified, like the world was waiting for their next move. "Let's south go to my place," she suggested, looking over her shoulder as they walked. "We can lay low and figure out the next steps in private." The streets were eerily quiet as they made their way toward her apartment. Images flashed in Grace's mind. The poison, the confrontation, the looming danger. She glanced at Lily and Charlie, their faces taut with tension but their determination unbroken. When they finally reached her apartment, Grace locked the door behind them, her heart thrumming loud in the silence. "Do you think we can trust Charlie?" Lily asked, the last flickers of worry evident in her voice. "He's been there for me before," Grace replied, placing a reassuring hand on Lily's shoulder. "We need allies in this." Charlie joined them, pacing the small living room. "We need to set our plan in motion. Every second we waste puts us at risk. The sooner we can expose them, the better." Just then, Grace's phone buzzed, the tone slicing through the tension like a knife. She glanced at the screen, and her stomach dropped. A message from an unknown number flashed ominously. "You can't run forever." The room fell silent. The walls felt like they were closing in, and Grace knew this was just the beginning. What if they were too late already? What if their enemy was closer than they thought? She looked at Lily and Charlie, determination flashing in her eyes. We're not backing down. Let us make a plan. As ideas brewed, a flicker of hope ignited. But deep down, uncertainty lurked, heavy as a storm cloud. Would their fight for truth lead them to safety, or push them further into the dark? In that moment, the phone buzzed again, and her heart stopped. This time, the message just read, "Meet us where it began, or suffer the consequences." Grace's breath caught in her throat. The real danger was just around the corner. The tension in the room clung to Grace like a thick fog, suffocating and blinding. She couldn't shake off the chilling weight of that message. Meet us where it began, or suffer the consequences. What could that even mean? Charlie was still pacing, his hands buried deep in his pockets. What do we do now? We can't just walk into a trap. His voice trembled slightly, a crack in the otherwise steely exterior he displayed. Lily, sitting on the edge of the couch, stared wide-eyed at Grace, waiting for her move. You went up against that man. You were fearless. Maybe we can confront him again, find out more? Or get ourselves killed, Charlie shot back. He stopped pacing and looked at both girls, his voice softening. We need to be smart. This isn't just about us anymore. We need information first, a strategy. Grace nodded, but her heart was racing. They couldn't keep living in fear. I think we should investigate where it all started, where the poison originated. A hospital, maybe? Lily suggested, her fingers nervously tapping against the couch. But how are we supposed to get in without drawing attention? They're not expecting us, Grace said, feeling a surge of determination bubble within her. We have to act like we belong. If we keep our heads low, we can find what we need. Just then, her phone buzzed again, and she instinctively reached for it. Grace's heart sank as she read another message from the unknown number. The clock is ticking. A shiver raced down her spine. Whoever was behind this meant business. I don't like this, she murmured, looking at her friends. Me neither, Charlie admitted. But we can't let fear take over. Maybe we start at the cafe? If he was there to meet someone, they might have left behind something, some clue. Grace's eyes lit up with that idea. That's brilliant. We know he's south connected to that place. If we can figure out who he was meeting, we'll have a stronger lead. Lily stood up, excitement coursing through her. Okay, we have a plan then. But we have to be careful. He will be watching. Exactly, Charlie added, pushing back some hair from his face. We stick together. No one goes off alone. With their plan taking shape, they gathered their things. As Grace grabbed her jacket, she felt a spark of hope flutter in her chest. They were ready to take back control. They were no longer sitting ducks, but just as they were about to leave, a loud bang echoed from the hallway, causing them all to jump. What was that? Lily whispered, fear creeping across her features. No idea, Grace said, tension knotting in her stomach again. Stay close. They stepped cautiously to the door, peeking out into the dimly lit hallway. The sound echoed again, this time followed by hushed voices. Fear gripped Grace, but she had come too far to retreat now. In that moment, she turned to Charlie and Lily, her eyes fierce. Whatever is happening out there, we need to face it together. Just as they managed to gather their courage to step outside, her phone buzzed yet again. It was another message, and this one sent chills down her spine. You've brought this on yourselves. The game is just beginning. A fierce determination ignited inside Grace. They were not going to run. They were going to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. But as they stepped into the unknown, dread settled in. What awaited them in the dark was a mystery, but one thing was clear. They were in a fight for their lives. And they could either rise or fall together. Would they be able to solve the enigma before it was too late? As they stepped cautiously into the hallway, the shadows felt alive, wrapping around them like a shroud of uncertainty. Grace's heart pounded, and the silence weighed heavily, broken only by the sporadic sounds of shuffling feet and hushed breaths. Stay close, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Lily nodded, her eyes wide, glancing back down the corridor. What do we do if he is here? We improvise, Charlie replied, his voice steady but laced with tension. Remember, we're the hunters now, not the hunted. With a shared look of determination, they crept forward, each sound amplifying in their ears. They reached the stairwell door, the usual creak replaced by an ominous groan as Grace slowly pushed it open. The dim light from the exit flickered like a dying star, casting their anxious faces in shades of gray. The cafe was close, a short walk down the street, but every corner felt like a potential trap. "We need to move fast," Grace urged, a new resolve setting her spine straight. They dashed into the night, the crisp air hitting their faces, expelling some of the mounting fear. The lively sounds of the city enveloped them like a protective blanket, but the encroaching darkness loomed just behind. Once they reached the cafe, they found it quiet, the normal bustle absent. Grace's eyes darted over the tables, hoping for any hint of a lead. "It feels empty," she said, scanning the room. Lily pointed to a table in the corner, overturned chairs scattered around it. "That's where he sat last time, isn't it?" They approached cautiously, and Grace knelt down. Everything was as they suspected. The only thing missing was an answer to the mystery that gripped them. She brushed the ground beneath the table, her fingers brushing over something cold metal. A keychain, with a small, engraved tag that read Serenity. "What do you think this means?" Charlie asked, wide-eyed with curiosity. "I don't know, but it feels important," Grace replied, holding the item tightly. "It has to connect back to him somehow. We just need to figure out how." Suddenly, a rush of footsteps caught their attention. They stiffened as a figure darted past the window, their silhouette dark against the light. Grace's pulse raced. Could that be him? With no time to lose, they ducked behind a nearby booth, adrenaline coursing through their veins. "What now?" Lily whispered, gripping her arm tightly. "We can't let him see us," Charlie said, eyes glued to the entrance. "But we can't just hide, either. We need the element of surprise." They whispered ideas back and forth, plotting how they might corner whoever it was. Grace's mind whirled, but she felt an odd mix of fear and excitement. This was unlike anything she had ever done. It was as if each adrenaline-fueled moment peeled back the layers of fear, revealing a fear center within her. Just then, the door swung open, producing a sharp clank against the bell. A woman entered, a waitress wearing the same black and white uniform Grace recognized from the cafe. She carried a tray of empty glasses, her eyes darting around nervously. A wave of recognition washed over Grace. "Wait, I think I've seen her before. She came out with him," Lily whispered. "Maybe she knows something. Do we approach her?" Grace considered for a moment, vaguely aware of the risk. But in their pursuit of answers, it felt like a chance worth taking. "Yes, just be careful. Let me do the talking." With determined steps, they approached the waitress, who looked startled but quickly composed herself. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice steady, but her eyes flickered with apprehension. "Actually, we're looking for information," Grace said, her voice calm yet confident. "You were with him, the man in black. Do you know where he went?" The waitress hesitated, glancing over her shoulder as if she might be overheard. I shouldn't be talking to you." Before she could finish, a loud crash erupted from the kitchen, sending all three of them jumping. The tension escalated, air thick with uncertainty. "Get down," Charlie shouted, ducking behind the nearest table. The waitress's eyes widened. As she dropped her tray, glass shards scattering across the floor. "They're coming," she gasped. Grace's heart raced again. Now it wasn't just the threat of being found. It was clear danger was at their heels. What had they walked into? The pieces were all falling into place, but now they were standing on a precipice. Only one thing was certain. They had to act, and they had to act fast. Would they be able to escape the storm brewing around them, or would they be pulled under? The kitchen door swung open, thrusting the chaos into the cafe like a gust of wind. Grace felt her breath catch. Her mind raced with thoughts of escape, but there was no running now. They had to confront whatever was coming. "Stay low," Grace urged, her voice a harsh whisper. They crouched beneath the table, its wood cool against her palms. She could barely hear their breathing over the pounding of her own heart. The waitress crouched near them, her face twisted in fear. "They've found me," she murmured, her voice trembling. "Who?" Charlie's voice was steady, trying to mask the panic rising in the air. Before the waitress could answer, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed from the corridor, growing louder by the second. The tension thickened as the door slammed open again, revealing a man in a dark coat, his face obscured by shadows. "Where is she?" he bellowed, eyes wild as he scanned the room. The wicked gleam in his expression fueled Grace's fear. "Hide," Grace hissed as she pulled Lily closer. They still had the keychain. The engraved serenity felt warm against her skin, a tiny anchor in a storm. What had it meant again? It felt like an answer. But to what? The waitress shifted, edging back as the man barked orders at a few others who had crowded in behind him, all clad in similar dark clothing. Search the place. She can't get far. Lily grabbed Grace's arm tightly. What do we do? Grace's mind raced. She was hunting the man in black, but somehow he demorphed into something far more menacing. If we can create a distraction. Charlie's face lit up. The kitchen. If we can get back there, maybe we can find something to use. Just as they were about to slip away, the waitress spoke up, her voice surprisingly firm. Leave. You want to find her here, she said, rising to her feet, defiance lining her posture. Grace's heart sank. What are you doing? Trust me, the waitress replied, taking a step forward, meeting the intruder's icy stare with determination. The intruder scowled. You don't tell me what to do, girl. A heavy silence filled the room as the waitress held her ground. But I do know things. You're looking for her for a reason, right? I can help you. Grace exchanged glances with Charlie and Lily, confusion swirling in their eyes. Now is not the time to barter, Charlie whispered urgently. But the waitress pressed on, her voice steady though her hands trembled. You want answers? You'll get them, but not by scaring everyone here. In that moment, a flicker of hope ignited in Grace's chest. Perhaps the waitress was leading them towards the truth. What do you know? Grace whispered, inching closer. Enough to keep you safe. For now, the waitress replied, glancing back over her shoulder as she spoke. Just then, a clattering sound erupted from the kitchen, catching everyone's attention. The intruder turned away, fury flashing across his face as he barked orders to his team. Go now. The waitress urged them, gesturing towards the service entrance leading to the back alley. They needed to trust her. Grace felt an instinct pulling her towards action. Let us move, she commanded, and they bolted for the back, adrenaline surging through them. The waitress followed, all of them slipping into the alley just as a flurry of voices erupted from the cafe behind them. Once outside, Grace breathed in the cool night air, trying to heighten her senses. Wait, we need to regroup. But the waitress, eyes wide with urgency, looked at them. They'll be looking for me. Even if they don't know who you are, they'll find you too. Who are they? Lily gasped, voice shaking. That is not important right now. We need to move. As they fled deeper into the darkness, Grace felt a sense of impending resolve. We're not done. We need answers. But what answers awaited? And what dangers loomed, disguised by the night? They had outrun one storm, but another was brewing just beyond the shadows. Would they be able to uncover the truth, or would they find themselves lost in a maze of secrets? The sound of hurried footsteps echoed in the alley behind them, a chilling reminder that they were far from safe. Grace's heart pounded against her ribcage as she glanced back, half expecting to see the dark-coated man emerge. Shadows flitted across the brick wall, creating a sense of urgency that pressed on her chest. Where do we go? Charlie's voice sliced through her thoughts, a thread of panic creeping in, and Lily clutched Grace's hand tighter. Just keep moving, Grace urged, her own voice barely above a whisper. They stumbled deeper into the alley, trying to blend into the night as the smell of damp pavement filled their lungs. The footsteps faded slightly, but they couldn't slow down. Not now. The waitress, who had pulled them from the brink, was leading the way. She navigated through the narrow path with sudden confidence. We need to get to my car. It's parked a few blocks away, she said, glancing back at them urgently. Do you really think you can outrun them? Grace asked, the weight of fear heavy in her voice. They don't know where we've gone. We're quicker in the dark, the waitress responded, pushing her hair back from her face, determination fueling her stride. But Grace felt that darkness crushing in. You need to tell us who they are? What is going on? Why did they come for you? The waitress hesitated, her eyes darting to the shadows behind them. Not here. We'll talk once we're safe. The faint tremor in her voice betrayed the fear she held beneath her brave facade. As they rounded a corner, the alley opened up to a deserted street, illuminated by flickering streetlights. A small silver car sat idling at the curb, its headlights casting a faint glow on the asphalt. In. Now, she shouted, moving to the driver's side, urgency coding every word. Grace shoved Lily into the back seat and jumped in beside her, with Charlie sliding in last. Go, go, Grace urged, breathless as she fastened her seatbelt. The waitress slammed the door and hit the gas, tires screeching as they barreled down the street. Relief washed over Grace for a fleeting moment until she caught the flicker of headlights in the rearview mirror. Are they following us? Charlie asked, panic rising. Yes, the waitress replied tersely. But I know how to lose them. Lose them? Lily echoed, her voice shaking. How? The waitress focused on the road, weaving through the quiet streets. By taking the back roads. Trust me. Grace took a steadying breath. We have to know what we're getting into. If they catch us, we can't just wing it. The waitress glanced up, the weight of her decision hanging in the air. They're after something, or someone. Maybe both. And if they find us, they'll stop at nothing. Who are they looking for? Charlie pressed, his brow furrowed in confusion. The waitress turned a corner sharply, the car rocking slightly. A girl she's involved in something dangerous. I thought I was safe, but they found me. Grace's thoughts spiraled back to the keychain in her pocket. Is she no? The waitress interrupted, her voice fiercely protective. You don't understand. This is bigger than all of us. We have to find her first, or we may not survive this. Determination surged through Grace. Then let us make sure we do. We can't lose anyone else. But as they sped into the night, Grace couldn't shake the feeling that the storm was far from over, and dark secrets lurked just ahead. What if the hunt for the girl led them to answers they weren't ready to confront? Or worse, a trap laid by the shadows? The questions buzzed through her mind as they zipped down the moonlit roads, their fate hanging in the balance. The car swerved onto a narrow side street, the engine roaring as the waitress pushed the pedal to the floor. The heat from the headlights washed over the cracked pavement, illuminating scraps of old newspapers and discarded soda bottles that blinked by like ghosts. With each turn taken, the anxious rhythm in Grace's chest grew louder, a hypnotic thump marking time with their escalating danger. Are we safe? Lily's voice quivered, her small hand fumbling for Grace's, trying to find comfort in a chaotic sea. For now, the waitress replied, glancing at them with a fierce intensity that sparked a flicker of hope. But we need to keep moving. They'll know these streets soon enough. We can't afford to be predictable. Grace leaned into her thoughts, the urgency slicing through her memory like a knife. Who exactly is after you? She questioned, trying to peel away the haze of confusion that surrounded them. People I thought I could escape heavily connected. The waitress navigated a sharp turn, the tires screaming against the pressure. It's complicated, okay? But trust me, if they find us before we find her, we won't just be running for my life. We'll all be in danger. What do you want us to do? Help you? Charlie chimed in, his youthful bravado clashing with the trepidation etched on his face. Yes, if we can find the girl before they do, we can end this. She glanced back at them, determination hardening her gaze. But you have to be prepared for anything. You may not like what we uncover. Grace bit her lip, anxiety bubbling up inside her. What if she's in even more danger than we thought? That's a risk we have to take. The waitress shot back, hands gripping the wheel like a lifeline. Lives are on the line, and it's not just hers. It's all of us, even if you barely know me. The weight of her words hung in the air, thick and palpable. Grace nodded, steeling herself. They had no choice but to plunge into the unknown. Another corner turned, and the car finally slowed to a stop under the cover of a large oak tree whose branches twisted like gnarled fingers in the night. This is it, the waitress declared. She peered around, ensuring they weren't being followed. What are we doing here? Charlie asked, his voice quaking. I have an old friend, someone who can point us in the right direction. She's in a diner just past the park. Is she safe? Lily asked, wide-eyed. Safer than we are right now. Grace stared out the window. A mix of fear and determination swirled inside her. What if she's one of them? What if there's a trap? I can't guarantee safety. But what choice do we have? The waitress's response was heavy, the unsaid reality pressing down on them like the humid air of the night. Let us at least find her, Grace urged, the resolve igniting something inside her. They were in this together now, entangled in a fight they didn't fully understand. The waitress broke the silence with a resigned sigh, her expression unreadable. All right, let us go. They stepped out of the car, the cool night air swirling around them. The world felt different, every rustle of leaves, every distant siren reminding them of their precarious position. As they slowly walked toward the diner, Grace's heart raced faster. The shadows seemed deeper now, hiding secrets they might not be ready to face. Wait, the waitress stopped suddenly, scanning the street. I think we're being watched. Grace's heart sank. The familiar sound of footsteps echoed close by, drawing nearer. Run! The command echoed, and just as Grace took off, she felt it the terrifying rush of uncertainty seeking to grip her tight. What was lurking in the darkness? Would they be able to reach the diner and find the girl before it was too late? Or would the shadows catch up to them, consuming everything before dawn? The diner loomed large in front of them, a beacon of comfort in the eerie night. Grace sprinted with determination, the weight of their mission heavy on her shoulders. In her mind, the stakes were higher than ever. Lily and Charlie flanked her like fierce allies, though fear and adrenaline quickened their movements. Just as they crossed the threshold of the diner, Grace glanced back, catching a glimpse of dark figures fading into the shadows. "They're right behind us," she gasped, urging her friends inside. The bells above the door rang out, startling the few late-night customers who sipped coffee and shared quiet conversations. Grace scanned the room, her heart pounding. The waitress, their guide through this tangled web, moved swiftly towards a door in the back. "This way," she whispered urgently, leading them through the bustling space. Once in the back, they were embraced by the warmth of the kitchen. The air was thick with the rich scent of fried food and burnt coffee. Grace caught her breath, but her mind raced with thoughts. What is next? Is she really here? Yes, but we have to be quiet. They'll find us. The waitress pulled them deeper into the kitchen, where the sounds of cooking muffled their quickened breaths. "Who are we looking for?" Charlie whispered anxiously. "A girl named Gina. She has information. Just trust me." The waitress insisted, glancing nervously at the door. "Gina, with the darker hair? Scared but fierce?" Grace recalled, piecing together scattered memories from her brief encounters. "Yes, if she can get away." If only for a moment. The waitress trailed off, her voice heavy with worry. "We might still be able to expose them." Suddenly, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed from the main diner area, growing louder with each passing second. Gripped with fear, Grace felt an overwhelming urge to keep pushing forward. "Keep going," Grace urged, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "We can't be caught here." A clamor erupted outside the kitchen door, and before Grace could think, the waitress swung the door open. "Back here," she urged, leading them into a small storage room filled with boxes and cleaning supplies. They huddled together, the darkness wrapping around them like a tight embrace. "What if they come in?" Lily whispered, her eyes wide and anxious. "Then we fight," Grace said firmly, her voice unwavering. Moments felt like hours as silence wrapped around them. The muffled sounds from the diner drifted into their hiding place. Suddenly, the door burst open, revealing a short, intense figure. It was Gina, breathless and wide-eyed. "You found me," she exclaimed quietly, darting glances behind her. "Are you okay?" the waitress asked, eyes shining with relief. "Not anymore," Gina replied, shaking her head. "I heard them talking about you. They're out for blood." "Why?" Grace felt an urgent need for answers. "What do they want?" "They think someone exposed their plans. You're now entangled. If they catch you, it could end badly. They don't just want information, they want control." Everyone held their breath as the voices outside surged and faded. It was like a dance of shadows, creeping closer, then pulling away. Gina pointed towards a back exit. "We need to get out now. I know a place where we can hide out and plan." Taking one last look around the darkened room, Grace felt a wave of courage wash over her. "Let us move." They slipped through the back exit, adrenaline propelling them forward. The crisp night air hit them, stark against the confined warmth of the kitchen. "This way," Gina called, leading them down a narrow alleyway. Panic surged as a shout pierced the night, echoing from behind them. "They're coming," Charlie urged, his legs pumping with urgency. They dashed into another alley, each corner revealing more shadow and uncertainty. But Grace had never felt more alive, determination sparking within her. Eventually, they stopped in a hidden nook, breathing heavily. "Is anyone hurt?" Grace asked, scanning their faces. "We're okay, for now," the waitress said, her eyes darting nervously. Gina took a breath, looking serious. "Listen, they're connected to something terrible. They've infiltrated the town, and we need proof to expose them. Lily squeezed Grace's hand, her voice trembling but clear. We'll do whatever it takes. Yes, Grace echoed, her eyes blazing with resolve. Together, we're stronger. As they plotted their next steps, the sound of sirens blared in the distance, a sharp reminder that they were still in danger. But within their little group, hope ignited like a wildfire. Suddenly, that glimmer of confidence shifted and deepened between them. With courage binding them together, they could face any storm. They would uncover the truth and fight for justice no matter the risks that loomed ahead. With clarity of purpose, Grace took a deep breath and nodded, ready to embrace whatever awaited them in the darkness. United in heart, they would rise together, determined to crack the code and reclaim their lives. The echoes of possibility rang loud and clear, a promise of hope in the chaos. Now is your moment. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep us going. We want to hear from you. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.